You ever watch 6 cop cars speed toward you because of a floating deck? Yeah, that was my Tuesday. 1 minute, I'm sipping coffee on my dock admiring the houseboat I spent 2 years building. The next minute, Victoria Sterling, the HOA president from hell, pulls up in a Bentley, screams into a megaphone, and tries to get me arrested for what she called aesthetic terrorism. But here's the thing. I don't even live in her HOA. It's my lake, my land, my rules. So why was she so desperate to make it disappear? Turns out, my houseboat looked exactly like the one her husband died on. Comment no HOA if you've ever been targeted by neighborhood drama. My houseboat, I spent 2 years building her. Not a boat, not a project, a dream. My dream. Every Sunday, after wrapping up custom furniture jobs for people who'd never learned the difference between mahogany and teak, I'd drive an hour north, crack open a root beer and sand down one more curve on the hull. Every inch of that houseboat, every joint, every railing was built by hand. Not for sale, not for show, just for me. So imagine this. It's my first real morning of retirement. I'm standing barefoot on the dock my grandfather built, holding a cup of black coffee that tastes like peace and victory had a baby. The fog still hugging the lake. My houseboat, gleaming like honey in the sunlight, is finally floating. Calm, proud, silent. And then the silence breaks. Varo Uten. I turn. 2 police cruisers, kicking up a dust cloud on my private road, followed by a white Bentley rolling like it's allergic to gravel. I blink once, twice. Still there. I'm thinking, is this a drug bust? Did the taco guy lie about his license again? Nope. Out steps a woman in a white suit. Chin high, eyes like winter. She points at my houseboat with the rage of someone who just caught her ex at a spa with her sister. And then she says it. Arrest him for aesthetic terrorism. I swear on every tool in my shed, that was her actual sentence. Aesthetic terrorism? I look at the cops. They look at me. And for a solid 10 seconds, the only sound on the lake is the slow creak of a unicorn float drifting past. That's when I introduce myself. Hi. Ethan Cooper. This is my land. That's my lake. And that beautiful terrorist structure right there, that's my houseboat. Built it myself. Got permits. Got pride. Got nothing that violates a single law in this county. The older officer, badge says Reynolds, sighs like this is his 3rd nonsense call today and it's only 10 a.m. Well, sir, we got a complaint. Something about emotional damage from a boat. And that's when I realize this wasn't about noise, the permits, or even the view. This was about something deeper. Something personal. Now here's the thing about Victoria Sterling. This woman doesn't run the HOA. She is the HOA. Think of her as a cross between a Stepford wife and a Bond villain, but with a better tailor. She doesn't walk, she arrives. Hair pulled so tight it could crack walnuts. White blazer, white pants, white heels. Not a speck of dust dares touch her, probably out of fear. And the first words out of her mouth when she saw my houseboat? He's destroying the aesthetic integrity of the community. Ma'am, I live on private land, with my own lake. You can't even spell HOA jurisdiction here. But that didn't stop her. Nope. She pulled out this massive laminated binder, like the Constitution but pettier, and started reading off violations like she was Judge Judy on steroids. One of the cops looked like he was trying not to laugh. The other one gave me that classic, "You're on your own, bro" nod. She wanted me fined. She wanted me removed. And she wanted my handcrafted 35-foot floating dreamboat dragged off the water like it was a crime scene. At first I thought it was ego. Then I thought it was entitlement. But then I saw it. Fear. Just for a second. Her hand trembled. Her eyes locked on my houseboat and something flickered. Recognition. Pain. Something deeper than just HOA. It looks like she stopped mid-sentence, then snapped, "It's nothing, but this isn't over," and stormed off. That's when Officer Reynolds leaned over and whispered, "Her husband died on a houseboat 5 years ago. Same lake. It was a freak accident. Since then, she's been different." Suddenly, it all made sense. This wasn't just about rules, but grief, control, obsession. But there was more. So much more. Later that day, I looked it up. And what I found wasn't just tragic. It was suspicious. The next morning, I found it. A crisp white envelope, tucked under my door like a love letter from Satan. Inside, a fine. $500, 0 cents. Per day. For, and I quote, "emotional distress caused by unsanctioned water structure, visible from common spaces." Common spaces? I live on private land with a private lake and no HOA membership. Unless the air above my lake is now owned by Victoria Sterling Inc., this made zero legal sense. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then I saw the signature. The Victoria Sterling, in full cursive. Bold, angry loops like she stabbed the paper with her pen. But what really made me pause wasn't the fine. It was the notepaper clipped to it. Handwritten, sharp and shaky. "This is your final warning. I won't let history repeat itself. Remove it or face the consequences. You have no idea what you're playing with." History? What history? You ever get a threat that doesn't even know how to be subtle? Like, it skipped passive aggression and went straight into Netflix original series, pilot? I held that paper in my hand, staring at the ink like it might blink back. And for a second, I kid you not, I felt cold, like the temperature around me dropped 10 degrees. So, naturally, I did what any self-respecting American does when threatened by bureaucracy. I made a stronger pot of coffee, and then I started digging. And that's when things got really weird, because what began as a fine was actually a red flag, and behind that flag was a financial time bomb, a dead husband, and a marina tangled in so much debt it made my old accountant weep from the afterlife. 7:02 a.m. Knocking. Fast. Persistent. Like the UPS guy owed rent. I opened the door, still in flannel pajama pants, and standing there was Harold Peterson, 70-something, hunched over, clutching an iPad like it held national security secrets. "Can I come in and, can we close the curtains? She's got binoculars, you know, high-powered." She, of course, being Victoria Sterling. I gesture him in, half amused, half concerned. He sits at my table, takes the coffee I offer like it's a shot of whiskey, and without a word, swipes open a video. The footage is grainy, shaky, clearly filmed on a phone. But it's unmistakable. A funeral. And water. Dozens of boats in black ribbon, floating in silent procession. And there, in the center of it all, on what looks like a modest white yacht, stands Victoria Sterling. In mourning black. Hair perfect, shoulders tight, eyes glassy but intense. The video cuts closer, and we hear her voice. Just one sentence. Sharp, final. "I swear on my husband's grave, there will never be another houseboat on this lake. They took him from me, and I'll burn in hell before I let it happen again." I looked at Harold. He nodded, slow and grim. Robert Sterling, her husband, drowned. Calm water, middle of the night. They said he fell overboard, but Ethan, that man swam laps every morning for decades. He was stone cold sober. Something never sat right. Harold swiped again. Showed me a satellite map of the neighborhood, with red X's scattered like a crime board. These 12 families, gone in 5 years, all forced out, all had boats she didn't like. She fined them into submission. Then Harold leaned in, eyes sharp. "This isn't about you. It's not even about the houseboat. It's about that night. And she's been trying to erase it ever since. At that moment, the HOA fine, the angry megaphone, even the cryptic letter, it all made sense. Victoria wasn't fighting for the neighborhood. She was fighting ghosts. Let me tell you something about Petty. Betty is buying a sign that says positive property, houseboat included, and spotlighting it so your HOA nemesis sees it every night when she brushes her teeth. But strategic petty is what I did next. It started with a phone call to Tom Bradley, my old lawyer, part-time bourbon snob, full-time genius. Tom, question. You still have contacts at Riverside Bank? Pause. Ethan, what are you thinking? I told him everything. Victoria's Marina debt, the foreclosure notice, the mysterious funeral vow, and how I was done being harassed over a floating masterpiece on my own lake. So, you going to buy the marina? I'm going to buy her entire power source, the HOA Queen's castle, and I'm going to do it while she's busy hosting her next meeting. You could hear his grin through the phone. I'll make the call. The next 24 hours were a blur. Cash liquidated, wire prepped, documents lined up. And at exactly 7:45 p.m., I was sitting in the back row of the HOA meeting with one tab open to my online banking app and $2,100,000, 0 cents, ready to fire. Up front, Victoria, in a deep purple pantsuit, clutching a binder thicker than the IRS code. She clicked a remote. Boom! My houseboat lit up the projector like a villain's lair in a spy movie. This floating hazard, she announced, is the root of emotional distress in our community. I propose we double the fine, $1,000, 0 cents a day. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Even the plastic chairs groaned in protest. Then, just as she raised her gavel, yes, she brought a gavel, I raised my hand. Madam President, may I say something? Gasps. She sneered. You shouldn't even be here. Actually, I should. Because at 8:00 p.m. on the dot, I bought Sterling Marina. That's right. While Victoria waved HOA bylaws like sacred scrolls, I quietly executed the most polite hostile takeover in HOA history. Tom texted me one word. Done. I stood up, calm, steady, as of 5 minutes ago. I own the marina, the one you've been using as leverage, power, and HOA headquarters. Dead silence. You could have heard her pearls unclutching. Then I projected the receipt, right over the image of my houseboat. $2,100,000, 0 cents. Wire confirmed. Ownership, Ethan Cooper. It was the kind of silence you could feel, not the peaceful kind. No, this was the mom just found your report card kind of silence. 50 neighbors stared at the projector screen, where the words Sterling Marina purchased glowed like a digital guillotine. Victoria Sterling stood frozen, binder slack in her hands. The HOA Queen dethroned. That's impossible, she whispered. Her voice cracked like cheap laminate. The marina isn't for sale. I never approved it. You didn't have to. I cut in gently. The bank foreclosed. I paid cash. 8:00 p.m. on the dot. Behind me, someone actually whispered, "Holy crap." Someone else clapped. Victoria flinched. Then came the panic. You can't do this. That marina is all I have left of Robert. That was our dream. She looked to the crowd for sympathy. But the crowd, they were done being ruled by binder-based tyranny. That's when Harold stood up. 70-year-old Harold. Retired mailman. Surveillance hero. If we're talking about community dreams, he said, let's also talk about where our HOA dues went these last 5 years. He tapped a button. Bank statements filled the screen. Line after line. Transfers from the HOA account straight into the marina. Labeled Lake Beautification, Dock Maintenance, Emergency Landscape. Except the lake hadn't been landscaped since Obama was president. Victoria's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, like a fish realizing it's been caught. That's when the detectives walked in. Not local cops. No, these two meant business. The lead detective, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper suit, stepped forward. "Victoria Sterling, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and misuse of community funds." Gasps. Phones came out. I swear someone live-streamed it with emojis flying up the screen. "Victoria?" she snapped. "It's planned this. He's targeting me. He knows what I know about Robert. About the night he died." The room fell dead silent. The detective raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, are you saying there's more to your husband's death than the official report?" Victoria paled. "I want a lawyer." "Too late. After the arrest, you'd think the drama would die down." "Nope. Turns out, the real story was just warming up." The next morning, I unlocked the main office at what used to be Sterling Marina, now proudly dubbed Freedom Bay, and opened the drawer Victoria had always kept locked. The key? Left behind in her desk drawer, labeled simply, and I wrote, inside, a leather-bound journal, a manila folder full of insurance documents, and a flash drive labeled Do Not View Private. Naturally, I viewed it. And what I found? Well, remember to like and subscribe, because this one's about to get real. Let's rewind 5 years. Robert Sterling, local marina owner, former collegiate swimmer, HOA co-founder, and according to everyone who knew him, a good man with a bad habit of trusting the wrong people, mainly Victoria. According to Harold, Robert was in over his head, debt, maintenance costs, and Victoria's obsession with keeping the image of Lakeshore Estates picture perfect. But here's the kicker. The night Robert died, he was planning to sell the marina. Not just planning, he had a buyer, a developer with a clean $3 million 0 cents cash offer. What happened next? Well, that's where things get... The flash drive held 3 things. A scanned copy of Robert's unsigned sale agreement. A private voice memo, Robert's voice, recorded the night before he died. The surveillance footage from the dock cam Victoria swore had been malfunctioning that night. Let's talk about that voice memo. "Vic doesn't know I'm doing this," he began, sounding tired but calm. "But we can't keep bleeding money. I'm selling. She'll be furious, but it's the only way out." Then, a pause, a long one. "If anything happens to me, just know, this wasn't an accident." I had to stop the recording. Not because I was scared, but because it suddenly wasn't just about a houseboat anymore. Now the footage. Blurry, black and white, time-stamped 1:12 a.m. EM, the night Robert supposedly fell. There he was, standing at the edge of the dock, pacing, talking to someone. The silhouette looked a hell of a lot like Victoria. She was waving her arms, pointing at something, possibly the houseboat. Then, Robert steps back. He stumbled. Was it pushed? Was it lost balance? The frame cuts out right there. Class. What we do know? He was a champion swimmer. There was no autopsy. And Victoria had taken out 3 new life insurance policies in the 6 months prior. Coincidence? You tell me. That afternoon, I handed the flash drive and journal to Detective Morrison, who didn't blink before saying, "This case just went from HOA drama to possible homicide. It started with a single sign. Hand-painted, nailed to the old marina gate, with chipped white paint and one sentence that said everything. Welcome to Freedom Bay. No clipboards, just cannonballs." That was the day everything changed. The HOA? What was left of it resigned in unison. Some from guilt, most from exhaustion. Victoria's name became a whispered cautionary tale. Her house went on the market a week later. No one left her a goodbye note, but someone did mow no HOA into her lawn with a riding mower. Not me, probably Harold. Speaking of Harold, he got a plaque. Neighborhood defender and keeper of receipts. It hangs in the Freedom Bay Community Center, right between a framed churro wrapper and a blurry screenshot of Victoria getting cuffed. Life came back to the lake. Kids rode bikes freely without noise ordinance warnings. People brought back their boats, sailboats, pontoons, even an old converted school bus that floated, somehow. The taco truck returned, this time with a new slogan taped to the side: "Beating freedom since the fall of Victoria." We hosted our first marina movie night that summer. Screened The Goonies on a projector rigged to the houseboat. Half the neighborhood watched from inner tubes. The other half sat on the dock, passing around lemonade and stories they'd never dared say out loud before. A few months later, I stood at the marina gates with Detective Morrison. She'd come by for a quiet update on the reopened case into Robert Sterling's death. Still no final ruling. The old piece is missing. But she said something I'll never forget. "Whatever happened to Robert, it won't stay buried forever. But what you did here, you made sure it won't happen again." I nodded, because she was right. What we reclaimed wasn't just a piece of land or a boat slip. We reclaimed trust, space, and most of all, freedom. So, to wrap it up, I came here to float a dream on a lake. Victoria tried to drown it with paperwork and power trips. But in the end, the houseboat stayed. And she didn't. Sometimes the best way to change a broken system isn't to fight it. It's to buy the damn marina, remake it with pride, and invite the whole neighborhood to cannonball into the future. If you made it this far, drop Freedom Floats in the comments, smash that like button, subscribe for more true HOA chaos, and remember, don't let anyone fine you for dreaming big in your own backyard.